interesting thing is, when you look at all this, this is really, really, really what's very unique, and no one's talking about this, is people will come out and say, well, we're like in a normal market now, right? You could put a house on the market and it'll sit there for a minute. The builders have homes to sell. But here's the difference. But the last time I looked in Orlando, they had maybe 3 to 4 weeks of inventory. Okay, that means if we stop listing homes, 3 to 4 weeks, you'll run out of houses to sell. I've never seen any marketplace where you're running a few weeks of inventory and homes aren't flying, right? So when people say, well, it's kind of like a normal market, you know, you have price reductions. Yeah, but those marketplaces have 5 and 6 months worth of inventory on them when they're moving at that pace. And the reality is, when, you know, how in the world do you have a marketplace with literally very little to sell still? And then the homes are now just kind of not moving at the same pace and actually kind of sludging through. You know, it's not common to see a search. You have maybe 10 homes in the search, not a lot of homes in there. And half of them have price reductions now. They're reducing price to get the thing sold. So ultimately what we're seeing is that you had a marketplace for the last year and a half with very little supply, and opposite of that, very, very high demand. Many buyers. So think about it. You have a few supply of homes, many people waiting in the wings, like literally just ready to pounce on something all at the same time, like a pack of hungry dogs, right? And now you still have very few homes, but the pack of dogs is also a tiny little pack. You have very, very low supply and very low demand at the same exact time right now. So ultimately the agents and the pundits and some economists that say this time it's different, okay? The marketplace can't possibly price correct too dramatically because supply is severely low, okay? But here's the thing, okay? What can change supply and what can change supply chain quickly? Those are the risks to the marketplace. And you know, when you think about the fact that there is low supply, renting is still record highs, particularly in Central Florida. The reality is, if you have a challenge in the marketplace where recession really starts to anchor in, okay? One of my biggest concerns is what will change the marketplace further, okay? The Fed is still not getting a handle on the inflation, right? It shouldn't be a real shock to anybody, by the way. It's like, wow, they've really adjusted interest rates. Well, in the past, when the Fed went to fight inflation, they did much higher increases than what we're seeing now. These are little drops in the bucket. Like the economists that are watching this, if you watch economists with time on them, they're looking at this early on going, they're doing something, but this is like a fire out of control and you're like bringing a tiny little bucket of water with these little interest rate increases. So we're not doing enough. The interest rates are still climbing, and yet we have, most likely, because the inflation is not getting under control, a trajectory of higher and higher interest rates, okay? So what we're seeing in Central Florida, and this is probably very, much similar throughout the country, is that the people that are still firing bullets at these houses, these last few buyers that are still in the marketplace, who are they? They're buyers with cash. Okay, I'm seeing them. The ones that are coming and still placing offers on our properties, they're ones with cash. We've seen the hedge funds backing up a little bit. I've seen hedge funds canceling contracts because I saw one particular hedge fund that had 50 offers accepted. They're buying and buying and buying. They had a wave of 50 offers come out and get accepted, which was hard to do back in April. And they walked away on nearly all of them. They lost like $150,000 in earnest money deposits, just left them on the table. You're seeing these interest rates. Obviously, a lot of the hedge funds, a lot of the funds in general, corporate buyers, let's say, those people are using leverage. So whenever the interest rates start growing, then the marketplace starts increasing rate of interest even for corporate investors that are buying these homes and levering them with financing. That's messing up the ROI, okay? Even with these record high rents, it's changing things. So those buyers that were institutional, that were making all this noise, BlackRock's buying up everything and all these, you got to understand, a lot of them are leveraging, okay? What they're not leveraging, they're getting from the marketplace in terms of investment, right? Like, how much more investment are we going to get on housing through REITs and all these people that want to back companies to buy more houses? How much more investment is going to come if they think that there's potential capital loss through deflation of the housing market? Like, there's a point where people are just, it's like common consensus. They see it on every news channel that the housing market may be backing away, it might be coming down, it's definitely resetting, it's balancing. And so that kind of money just chills out and waits. Most of the offers that we're getting, however, right now are people coming out of another house. They're coming from somewhere else, right? Because who in the world is going to sell their house at $300,000 and say they want to move up to $400,000? They're selling a house that had a better interest rate at $300,000 to go to a $400,000 interest rate that might be 1 or 2% higher. I mean, getting the extra pool now, like let's say you're selling from 300 to 400 or 400 to 500 to get a pool, you get a soured interest rate, and then the pool ends up costing you what, $1,000 a month more or $1,500 a month more in mortgage payment because you jumped in payment to get some better set up house. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, if you look at it honestly, you think that the marketplace is probably going to see an increase in, you know, maybe some remodeling and things of that nature. But even that is going to be tricky because, you know, remodeling has its own cost. Cash out refinances, right? People borrowing out of their equity to fix the house they live in and add the pool is coming at higher terms. So we're seeing cash out refinances just like boom, they're just going down and they're losing steam. The reason why the buyer demand disappeared is because you had all these people that, let's say they were trying to buy for the last year. Because this is what happened. You know, when you're in a pack of 50 buyers trying to buy the same house, you got pre-approved a year ago and you tried and tried and tried again, and a year went by and you didn't buy anything. Then all of a sudden the interest rate goes up like 3 percentage points, 3 in some cases 4% over months of time, okay? So like you had a 3%, a 3.5% go to 6.5%. That affected the housing market by $600 a month. The average 20% down buyer is now paying $600 more a month for the same property, okay? $600 a month, by the way, in buying power is $100,000, okay? So the interest rate change in that scenario is $100,000 of buying power. So if you were maxed out, that lender said you have a $400,000 pre-approval to buy a house, that new interest rate could be given to you, and then you're like, oh, you're now at $300,000. Now think about that. You've tried to buy for a year, and $400,000 has, you know, that doesn't even buy anything anymore in your mind. You're like psychologically, man, I've been trying for a year. A year ago, I could have got a pool and a 1,500 square foot house. Now I can only get a 1,400 square foot house with no pool for $400,000. And then the lender says, by the way, you get to buy $100,000 less to qualify. That brought a ton of people out of the market. And a lot of real estate agents, a lot of professionals saying, well, you know what? It's just sticker shock. They're going to step back.